Miami with Max Johnson, Olin Buchanan. Olin, how would you put that week into perspective in College Station?
The whole week, oh my goodness. Gosh, talk about just polar swings, like a bipolar, like a bipolar fan base. You're about as down as you can get after the loss to Appalachian State. People were panicking and upset, disgusted, all those things, and they should have been. They had a right to be. You have more to expect than that in the fifth year under Jimbo Fisher. But then, and then when you had 4 players have to be suspended because they broke curfew to go to a party, then you're starting to wonder, and hey, where is this team at? Do they even care about what's going on here? And then they come out and just have a really good, strong show of intestinal fortitude in a game against the number 13 ranked team, and they go win. And then I think that you have a fan base that wants to get excited about this team, but they're a little bit apprehensive right now.
And history, is a hard thing to shake. Olin, you know this. And it's kind of a hard thing to break habits for Jimbo Fisher. He did say last week that changing everything is on the table, including him actually hiring a play caller for the first time in his life. Do you think, and I don't think it's going to happen this year unless things got really bad, but do you think that's in the offing in the offseason?
No. I just think that Jimbo Fisher feels like that his system works and that the play calling is not the issue. He believes it's the execution. And quite frankly, in some of the plays the other night, there were plays to be made there. And a guy would miss a block or, a guy would drop a pass. Even Devon Achane dropped what could have been a touchdown pass. So I'm not sure if he wouldn't be benefited by somebody else calling the plays and him just managing everything else that a head coach has to deal with. But when, if he wants to make that argument that it's about execution, and then when you break down the film, you say, well, at least to some degree, he's right. Then the next question is, well, why aren't you executing?
Olin, what were your impressions of Haynes King and then subsequently your impressions of Max Johnson? Was there much of a difference in your mind when all was said and done?
Yeah, actually, I thought the problem with Haynes was he was a little indecisive. Sometimes you didn't know if he wanted to run the football or not. If he was decisive against Appalachian State, he took off, had a 31-yard run, and they scored on a touchdown a couple plays later. A lot of other times, you see the protection breaking down around him, and he looked like he didn't know what he wanted to do, and then he decided to run, but he decided too late. He could either sack or like a 2-yard gain. I think that he was really an enigma because he has a strong arm. I saw it on a pass he overthrew against Appalachian State late in the game to Chris Marshall. He took 50 yards in the air, and yet I can count 4 or 5 times when he had open receivers and he skipped the ball to him he threw 5 yards short and the ball skipped to the guy. And so you're saying, what's going on? They had a chance to pull out the win over Appalachian State, and he had Aniyah Smith open on a slant, threw it 2 yards behind him. On second down, on third down, he had Keith Brown wide open on the sideline in front of A&M's bench, and he threw it so short that Keith had to leave his feet just to catch it. So what could have been a first down, maybe a touchdown, was a 5-yard gain, and they missed missed the field goal to try to tie it on the next play. So it's not that he's without ability. That's not the issue. But I think he's just been indecisive. Maybe the game's still moving too fast for him. But some of those short passes are kind of alarming.
Olin, the freshmen who were suspended because they wanted to be freshmen, and also knuckleheads that you have at times. Players do this. If you don't take care of that immediately, that could become even worse. How much does it help that they won the game without him?
Well, a huge. In fact, Jimbo was asked about whether or not if especially the two receivers, if they had been present, what boost would have given the offense? And the answer was none. So our problem wasn't with the receivers; it was with protection. Well, some of that's true, but I'm not 100% true. Believe in that. Evan Stewart had made a positive impact on this team, and they could have used a guy with his speed to try to loosen up that Miami defense. It was just, to me, just daring A&M to throw deep, and A&M couldn't. So they could have helped, but the fact that you were still able to go out and win that football game against a good team without two guys that could help you. Number one, person, it's good. It's good for you. It's good for as a team that you did that, obviously. But number two, maybe it sends another subtle message to those guys. Not that they need it. From what I understand, the rest of the team made it very clear to them that forgiveness can be can be warranted, but don't make this mistake again.
Olin, how bad do you think Jimbo needs to win these next two before they get to the tilt with Alabama on October 8th?
Well, I think he needs to really bad. I've said before that you're in the fifth year under this guy who's been recruiting at a very high level. They've got a pretty good defense, not as good as it should be. Linebacker play kind of suspect, but a good defense. And you're not winning because of the offense that you're in charge of. And I said before the season, anything less than 10 wins should be considered a disappointment. And when you lose that game to Appalachian State, one that you would have circled as a win, that makes that 10-win plateau very, I don't want to say unlikely, but very difficult to reach, even more difficult than it normally would. So Arkansas looks like the best team in the SEC West other than Alabama, and Mississippi State. Starkville has been a major problem going there for A&M with good teams against bad Mississippi State teams. I don't think this is a bad Mississippi State team. So if you want to be involved in the championship race in the West Division, and obviously A&M does, you have to win these two games. You can't get you can't be down 2 games to Alabama going there and thinking you're going to have a chance to be a contender in the race. So these are very important games, and yet games that you're going to have to play infinitely better than you've shown so far to be able to win.
What's been the biggest surprise in a good way, and what's been the biggest surprise in a bad way?
Okay, well, the biggest surprise in a good way, let me think on that, because we expected so much from them.
Yeah.
So I guess when you consider how Evan Stewart, we thought he'd be good, that he'd made a good impact. Bryce Anderson, as a freshman, came in and played really well at a time of need last week when they had a couple of guys out and then a couple of starters ejected for targeting. So that was kind of a surprise. I think the biggest surprise from a negative aspect is probably that maybe the run defense. I thought they would be a lot better against the run, and their linebacker play has really let them down. And beyond that, I guess we really thought we'd see more out of Haynes than we did.
Yeah, and the offense, it's like a struggle, isn't it? It's a struggle. They're not running the ball great. They're not always giving protection, and you have some issues already, and then it just seems like they've got to figure that out. Do you think they will?
I think the offensive line will get better with each game because, frankly, they have so many guys that are first-year players, and they've got Bryce Foster came back last week from mono, and they got better with him. But they've got a long way to go. I think Trey Zoom, their redshirt freshman left tackle, I thought he played his best game against Miami. But is that going to be good enough to beat good SEC teams? All their problems, I believe, starts with their offensive line issues, and they've just got to get better. Even the guys that you feel like were proven and playing well before this year, Layden Robinson, Reuben Fothery, they've had some busts that you just can't have. And they've had them at big, that took away opportunities to have big plays. So, everybody up front's got to play better. And maybe that's one of the reasons Haynes was struggling, because he wasn't trusting his offensive line.
All right. It was a stressful week. It ended better than it absolutely started because of the loss to App State, but the nice win against Miami. Olin Buchanan, thank you, sir. TexAgs.com with us on Texas A&M. When we come back,